Hi, I'm Troy Smyka from Great Day on the Water Guide Service here, and welcome to this episode of Fishing and Hunting the North Country. Today we're focusing on panfish. I got a small crappie here, but I want you to see this. I'm going to bring it here and show you how he inhaled this little crankbait. It's a little Rapala ultralight shad, and he inhaled that. We'll get him off the hook a little here and get him back. But we're going to go through today all different kinds of tactics and locations for fishing panfish in the middle of the summer. We're in late July here. We've got a cloudy day today, but this will work on a sunny day too. Especially if it's a day where the panfish are the only thing biting. Some of the other game fish are tough. We'll show you multiple techniques and go over the locations for midsummer panfish. And my son Parker with a crappie on a jig spinner. We'll go through equipment here a little bit later, but we're catching them on a few different things here today. That's a nice, we don't need to keep anything, but get some fish at home, but that would be a good eating 9-incher there. Should you hold them up here, show them off, bud. All right, I'm gonna get in close and see that jig spinner sticking out of his mouth there. Yeah, we'll talk about that more later with the other equipment. All right, you can see here, we'll talk a little bit about location. We're on a reef that comes up, kind of starts out as a point on the shoreline and hooks out into a reef. It gets shallow and weedy, but then you can see our red line we've been following. You can see to the left there is drop off into deep water. And we are working right at the top. We're in anywhere from 7 to 9 feet of water with, you can see there, weeds up as much as halfway up, some cases within 3 or 4 feet of the surface. And this is where the fish, sunfish and crappies now are suspended, working. They're kind of in the weed tops and they're feeding up. We got insect activity and seeing minnows splashing around, and they're feeding up on them. So we're fishing mainly horizontal baits, small crankbaits, small jerk baits, jig spinners, but we're catching some too with a soft plastic suspended underneath the float. But we just keep working along the top edge of that weed line. All right, got another crappie there. Nice eating size, 8-9-incher there. I'll show the lure a little closer here. Jig spinner off the old Beetle spin. It's just a 16th ounce VMC Moon Eye jig, a number 1 size jig spinner attached to it, and then a 2-inch soft plastic. This one happens to be a Berkeley Ripple shad in emerald shiner color. That's one of the baits working today. We'll go through some of the other ones as we continue to catch fish.
Well, I got a crappie on here on a Beetle spin. Not a bad crappie. Get him in the boat here.
Parker got himself a bluegill this time. Grabbed that jig spinner. Nice bluegill there. I think the sun's cracking back out. One of those days when I want to put my sweatshirt on, the sun comes out. So then I live with it for a while, and then I put the sweatshirt on, or don't put the sweatshirt on, I get cold. Nice one there, buddy. We're not keeping any fish today, but again, we're on that, over the tops of those weeds on the edge of that reef. Nice gill.
Right in the boat here, this guy hit.
Oh, this is a quick release. I tried to lift him out. About a 9-inch crappie. Not bad on that jig spinner. All right, my dad Nate's got another crappie here on the jig spinner. We'll get him in, let him go, and then we'll talk about rods, reels, and line. Yeah, nice, another 9-incher there. Again, we don't need anything to eat, but lots of fun.
Beetle spin.
Yeah, you go and put him back, and then we'll take a look at the rod and reel and talk about rod and reel and line a little bit. Okay, so we are using St. Croix Panfish series rods. There's the logo right there. 7-foot ultralights with moderate fast action. And we've got an 8-foot in here too, but that's a 7-foot. We're using a ultralight. That's a Fluger Tryon spinning reel. And then on there we've got 4-pound test, Berkeley Fireline, the new Fireline barrel swivel there, and then spliced to that we have a little bit of 8-pound test fluorocarbon. It's a little thicker and a little stiffer. You want to unwrap that so I can show that little snap then too. And it's just a little thicker, a little stiffer, a little more abrasion resistant. Okay, and then from the on the end of that fluorocarbon, we've got just a tiny little, it's called a fast snap. They look really tiny, but they're 11-pound tests, so plenty of strength, and then that way we can snap it onto that jig spinner or onto a little crankbait or a little jerk bait or whatever we want to use. So that's the gear, all ultralight gear, and boy, they're fun and fight well on that ultralight stuff. Okay, we got another crappie coming in there. Still just slow rolling that jig spinner over the top of the weeds by the weed edge with that ultralight tackle. Hold them up here to see. All right, good one. And let's see, Parker. Oh, you switched to that little crankbait, didn't you? Nice bluegill there. That's that little Rapala ultralight shad. It's basically just a miniature version of the shad wrap, about 1.5 inch long version of the Rapala shad wrap. Again, it's a diving or a sinking bait. So you cast it out, let it sink a little bit, and there it is. Reel it in. That's just kind of a minnow pattern there, shad pattern. All right, let that one go. Crappie, crappie, crappie in one spot, sunfish, sunfish in another spot. And we mixed in a couple, we haven't shown them in the video, we caught a couple bass too. Good job, bud. And my dad, Nate, went to the vertical presentation. We anchored up here because Parker caught those couple of nice sunfish, and look at this one. Swing him aboard there.
Then he got into the weeds, but I got him.
Swing him aboard there. Oh my goodness, look at that tank. We're gonna get him off, get a picture and a measure, and then tell you how big he is. That's a beastie there. Hey, we got a motor up here. We got a double on crappies. Got mine in here, about 9-incher again. Looks like my dad's getting close with his there. Both on the jig spinners. Nice eaters there. Yeah, well, it's a crappie. All right, gotta talk about another important piece of equipment here. There's two pieces, the sonar and the trolling motor hooked together. My dad and I just had that double, and I just got whacked by another one and missed it. So what I'm gonna do is turn off, we were moving along slowly, turn off the trolling motor, and I'm gonna hit the anchor button, and we're gonna anchor here. And you'll see it adjusting to get us right to where we were when I hit that button. The trolling motor uses a GPS of its own, plus it's linked to the GPS and the sonar. And now we'll sit and see if maybe we came across a bunch of them here, concentrated. If not, I just got some weeds. If not, then I'll take the anchor off and start the motor back up, and we'll move on. But if we did come across a little group, then we can sit. We don't have much wind today, but even on a windy day, it would hold us right in the correct spot, and we could sit and work the school. It turns out it was just a lucky deal with the double and the extra bite and not a school. And I can just take the anchor off and
continue moving back on. So really, really helpful tip for kind of running and gunning like this, for moving around looking for fish. Then when you find them, sit on them. Oh, there, I just got hit by a crappie. We might have a little bunch of them here. Smaller one, but we might have a group of them here. So we'll sit here on them a little bit with that anchor feature on the Minn Kota. He hit right at the boat here again. Crappies will do that. They'll sometimes follow that bait up, or they come right up out of some weeds right under the boat as I'm starting to bring the bait back up to the boat. So we gotta, oh, he's hooked solid. He hammered it. But there's a nice 10-incher there. And again, that jig spinner with that Berkley ripple shad on there, kind of an emerald shiner pattern. They're up here chasing around. You can see we got gnats and bugs and minnows and everything buzzing around here. Minnows in the water, gnats, all kinds of bugs on top of the water, and we're even seeing some panfish come up once in a while. Go after, probably either chasing minnows by the top or trying to slurp a bug down. All right, that's small, Sonny. You gotta get those too. We got small crappies too. Show this bait quick, and he hit that little Rapala ultralight shad. Alright, and my dad, we got on some fish here and we anchored a little bit, so he went with a vertical presentation. He went with a jig and soft plastic hanging under a slip float, and got a crappie that way. Hold him up here. Alright, nice crappie. So when you get on fish, you can hit that spot lock or anchor button, and you can sit on them and either keep casting horizontal baits to them, or you can try a vertical presentation under a slip bob. All right, and we're still anchored here where we'd come across a few, and I'm still using a horizontal presentation, alternating between a little crankbait and a jig spinner. My dad switched to a jig and soft plastic under a slip float, and he is catching crappies doing that now as well. So once you find them, you can just sit on them and fish them with a bobber too, and again, I just use a jig and a soft plastic underneath that. All right, just gonna take a look at the equipment we were using today. Probably our best bait today was this one. This is a jig spinner. It's a 1/16 ounce. That's a BMC Moon Eye jig. Number 1 size jig spinner attached to it, and then this happens to be a white and with a chartreuse tail, a Berkley ripple shad. We caught them on ripple shads in this color, also in minnow colors like emerald shiner and smelt, also just in a 2-inch minnow, which is regular forked minnow tail. In generally natural colors, minnow colors work good. Something with a little chartreuse works good. We were kind of sunny part of the time, cloudy part of the time. If it's sunny all the time, you want to use a minnow color, but otherwise you can get a little chartreuse in there if it's cloudy. We caught quite a few fish on this. This is a Berkley Rapala ultralight shad. It's just a tiny little 1.75 version, 1.5 version of their shad wrap, and pitch that out and just slow wobble that along. This one's a sinking bait, so you have to move it fast enough to keep it up off the bottom over the tops of the weeds, and it just does that shad wrap action. And we had fish inhaling those. We caught a couple of fish on this as well. This is a 2.5-inch Rapala X-Wrap, just a miniature version of the larger X-Wrap. Been one of their great baits. It's a jerk bait. Reel that out, throw that out, reel it down a little bit, twitch it, let it sit, double twitch it, let it sit. Double twitch, sometimes it'll turn around sideways too and trigger strikes, and crappies were coming up and hitting that too. And then we did catch some on slip bobber also. When a couple times we found fish pretty thick in an area, so we used the anchor button and sat on them, and we kept some horizontal baits going, but threw out just a 1/16 ounce jig with some kind of soft 1 to 2 inch soft plastic underneath that slip float, 3 feet down, just to be just a little ways above the weeds. They're kind of feeding above and in the weed tops, and that caught fish as well. One note on this, there's some new tooth marks on the top of this here. I had a small muskie, maybe 24 incher, 25 incher follow it, and then about 8 casts later,
I'm like, I have something on there that's moving towards me. And I started reeling and caught up, and there it was under the water right next to the boat. It had to be a 45, 46, 47 inch muskie. Grabbed this little thing. He didn't know he was hooked. I tried to not put much pressure on him till we could get the big net out, but we just couldn't get his head turned. When I put some pressure on him, then he finally figured out this wasn't real. Quit trying to eat it and spit it. But it just shows that you can find everything on these weeds. So I'm gonna have to retie that leader too. That got frayed. He did get that rubbed on his teeth.